Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome, and if you're joining us from a previous video like, say, our top 5 King of the Hill episodes video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. Well gang, we're here. After years of speculation and anticipation, we finally have a new season of King of the Hill. Now, I'm gonna be real with you here, gang. When I first saw the stills and heard the concepts, I was a stone cold hater. If there was a nay to say, you better believe I said it. And then the season dropped all at once. No weekly releases, no big dramatic reveal, just boom, all there. And the Hulu Catch-Up Essentials was not doing the new season any favors at all. The trailers did not look good. The hell does the Patriot Act have to do with anything other than being horrible? Sure, there are some good essentials, but the playlist was absolutely lacking. So, would the show be lacking too? Would it be a story of the week? Would we have seasonal through lines again? Well, of course, there's only one way to find out and 3 questions that must be asked. What worked? What failed? What Japanese-German fusion will be curtailed? Does the season shine, or was it ordered off of Shien? It's time to review Season 14! Return of the King. And here we are, the season premiere. We open with Hank and Peggy returning to Texas after spending several years in Saudi Arabia working on propane projects and propane project accessories for some reason. A lot of people thought it was some work exchange program because of the new guy that lived in Hank's house and took care of it while he was away, and I really love the theories on this one, just for them all to be completely wrong and have it be Brian Robertson, played by, and I'm so glad this is true, Hollywood Star of Fame recipient and voice acting legend, Keith David. If I had a nickel for every comedy show revival with Keith David in it, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. 6 seasons in a movie, that's all I'm saying. Hank has a urethra issue on the plane, and Peggy's more than happy to inform all the passengers of what's going on in graphic detail. When they get home, they take a totally not Uber, go to gender-neutral bathrooms, and get home, and we cut over to what Bobby's been up to. After the time skip, Bobby is now the 21-year-old head chef over at Rabata Chain, a Japanese Rabata grill fusion concept German restaurant he opened with the financial backing of the Wasana songs, with Chain being his vocal partner. Chain would actually be played by Ki-Hong Lee. We would also get Bobby's sous chef Emilio, played by Anthony Campos, who, fun fact, played Enrique's brother-in-law in a previous episode. I will say I did miss Danny Trejo this season. Just wish he showed up really anywhere. But I digress. Bobby is entertaining some fellow adults and really hits it off with a girl going to college and ends up going to a college party. Atta boy. He then proceeds to hook up with said chick and butt dials Peggy. Now, you can hear her giggling audibly, not muffled in any way, and he's muffled. So my headcanon is he was playing tongue ball with her button because he's a gentleman. That boy was raised right. And that's genuinely the comedy of the season. They take the TV-14 ratings seriously. Where the previous seasons were ones you could arguably show a 13-year-old Bobby and he'd enjoy it with the family while not getting all the jokes, this is for 21-year-old Bobby sitting while visiting with his family and they all reminisce about old King of the Hill while being stunned Bobby eats out. He then runs into Connie after his one-night stand, and we get to see what the gang have been up to. Boomhauer has a new girlfriend, and he's been looking after her son, Luke Jr. Do we see the girlfriend or anything? Nope, not even a whisper of her. Nancy and John Redcorn do promotion in real estate together. Dale ran for office and investigated and kicked himself out. And Bill became a morbidly obese shut-in that managed to finish Netflix. Let's get this out of the way right now. Johnny Hardwick did record some lines for Dale, and the fact it's hard to tell what's him and what's Toby Huss tells you everything you need to know. He was already sick and it had already impacted his voice. The characters sound older because they absolutely are, and the actors are as well. This series has had to face vocal degradation head on, and personally, I think they did a great job with it. No, it's not the Dale voice you're used to, but it's what we have. And not once did either Hardwick or Huss phone their lines in. I will always respect their dedication to the fans, and if his voice is a point of contention for you, get over it. Hank then gets frustrated with the new safety measures around the neighborhood, and he remembers back to their time in Saudi Arabia. He gets an offer to come back to Saudi Arabia with a new house and potentially a new wife and all the bells and whistles, and he says he'll consider it. Then we get the Megalomart scene. I've seen this argued about again and again, and some people just need to understand this is who Hank has always been. Hank and Peggy go up to some Girl Scouts who offer cookies, and they're extra critical and jaded, thinking that the cookies will have to be gluten-free and they'll cost $50 a box, that society is crumbling away. But the kids are just earnestly selling cookies, $5 a box, real easy. Hank wants Samoas, and they tell him that they don't have them anymore because they're actually called Caramel Delights now to be more respectful of Samoans. Hank says that's a good change, and the girl goes, yeah, it's just nice to be nice. Look at that, gang. We're back to the political commentary of season 1. Political stance number 1, hot take. It's nice to be nice, and sometimes a name change doesn't mean you need to absolutely crash out about something. What a concept. They start talking with the people around the store, and while making small talk, Hank gets offered to use a stranger's discount on a Sawzall while they talk over some Caramel Delights. People coming together over the small things and just small talk. What a wild and bold idea for 2025. The episode ends with Hank grilling some burgers with clean-burning Sweet Mother propane. He manages to pull Bill from his house, and he knocks Bobby and his steaks down. The gang all share a beer with the newest inclusion to the regular gang, Brian Peterson, and man, we'll get into it later, but as far as a setup premiere, this really does a ton right. Gives you just enough to get you hooked while still ramping up. Hank and Peggy fall in love with Texas again, and Bobby is doing his own thing in Dallas. Bobby does Dallas. This is how you come back after 15 years. This is how you slip political commentary in without bashing people over the head with it. This is what King of the Hill does best. Return of the King is a coconut accentuated 10 out of 10. The Beer Story. I think this is the episode where I really have a problem with Bobby being just 21. Hank is bored out of his mind and just sort of wandering Megalomart when he comes across a home microbrewing kit and decides to microbrew his own beers. His friends love them, and he thinks he should compete while Bobby mocks his beer and tells him it needs more flavor, more fruit, more oomph. I did just want to take a second and talk about this, and it's really the only mention of Chuck Mangione throughout the entire series, but it's him and Snoop Dogg doing a microbrewing kit together, and just, rip to a real one. Chuck Mangione, obviously, Jonathan Joss was a huge loss too, but it stung extra hard seeing this after the news that Mangione passed. And so, the father and son decide to compete at a microbrew competition where Hank and the guys compete together against Bobby, who has the financial and dude bro backing of Shien and his fellow frat boys. The B story is Boomhauer bonding with Luke Jr. by getting him into non-alcoholic beer, and then fearing he might have an addiction to non-alcoholic beer when he's hanging out with other kids and drinking too much, when Luke is really just trying to idolize Boomhauer because he looks up to him. Boomhauer's new family is a very sweet angle for him, and I think it works for his character, but we just don't have it built on at all. Luke Jr., who's Luke? Can we see his mom? Can we hear, Boomhauer talking about her at all? Why is he always watching the kid? Does she work overseas or something? We don't know anything about them to have a deeper connection. We even know what Nancy does. We know what Min does. We know nothing about Boomhauer's girlfriend. Just something lacking. Luke as a character is very hit or miss, but he's also a child, so who really cares? They never really pull away from the A story too much with this, at least, and I really appreciate how this sets the trend of episodes leading into each other. Like, there's never really a standalone filler episode in a 10-episode order. There shouldn't be. Every episode should serve a purpose, and every episode this season absolutely does. It is just, there is a weight of responsibility in the script writing. They knew people came into the show with high expectations, and I'll admit, the first episode didn't wow me initially, but this one absolutely got me locked in. Hank versus Bobby in a beer competition. This is the perfect way to introduce my season thesis. It's a hot take and controversial, I know. Hear me out, though. Hear me out. Trust the academic. This is some 5D mental gymnastics right here. Sit down if you must. This season is the transition to Bobby being the new metaphorical king of the hill. I know, passing of the torch, it's never been done before or alluded to. There's no way that's what they're going for. It's a controversial take, I know. But the rest of it's just kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's my experience in restaurants. But Bobby is the head chef of a restaurant at 21, and it's a Japanese-German fusion restaurant with a path to profitability? Now that's just farcical right there. King of the Hill has been rooted in realism, and you're expecting me to believe he has a successful restaurant in the year of our Lord, 2025? Give us the bear, Bobby. Make him 25, 26, get a few more years under his belt. I will say I love Emilio as Bobby's sous chef, sidekick character. He is a great addition. He really fleshes out Bobby, and I'm so glad they added him. Shien is Shien. Shien will always be Shien, and I appreciate that you go into it expecting Shien to be his old Shien self, and he is. But Bobby being 21, it feels off, especially for the time skip. If they were gone for 10 years like people speculated, Bobby would have been 11 when he was 13 when the series ended. But the episodes are fun enough, you just don't worry about it. If it completely ruins your immersion, hey, I get it. But also, if you just want to enjoy the ride, it's a good ride. It's a solid ride. The competition between the two makes Hank appreciate the work Bobby puts in, and Bobby sees Hank's traditional ways, and you can really tell they have a love for one another. This is them clashing as equals. Bobby's way isn't wrong, and neither is Hank's. They just have a clashing opinion, and that's fine. They even share beers at the end of the episode. This isn't a Bobby that needs his dad's life lessons every day anymore. This is a unique person. He has to go out on his own and thrive. And Hank really begins to see Bobby as a functioning and successful adult. The beer story is an extra hoppy 10 out of 10. Bobby gets grilled. What a wild ride. Bobby is all out of charcoal and needs a very specific type to make a traditional robata. His supplier gives him the hookup, but the guy refuses to sell to Bobby because he's not Japanese. Hank, Peggy, Dale, and Nancy are all going to the George Bush Museum in Dallas and swing by Bobby's restaurant where Hank is shocked Bobby doesn't cook with clean-burning propane. When Bobby goes to confront the charcoal supplier, he finds out he's a black man that was raised in Japan and is now accusing Bobby of cultural appropriation, even sending out flyers throughout town. All right. Not really beating the whole woke allegations, but let's do this. Meanwhile, while exploring the museum with the help of a docent played by the always delightful Jack McBrayer, Hank gets put in the Situation Room for a mock presidential decision. While Dale spouts off conspiracy theories, they get more and more outrageous, while Hank tries to be as historically accurate as possible, really facing down the Dale believed he was too conspiratorial for QAnon, and I'm kinda for it. I am glad Dale acknowledges that he's OG conspiracy. It was such a small touch, but it was a necessary touch. We also get the new voice of Ted Wasana song this episode, and he'd be played by Kenneth Choi of 911 fame. He does a fine enough job, but man, I would have loved one good super out of him. Just something. Give us a little taste. Bobby upsets the Germans and even runs into a man whose grandfather was one of the 50 men Cotton killed, which does not put that man's grandfather in a good light. Cotton wasn't fighting against the Allies, friends. Ted wants Bobby to use propane, and he doesn't want to switch because that's not the traditional charcoal used in a robata. He wants to be as respectful as possible to the cultures he's fusing. Yeah, he's white, and yeah, he understands that's going to be a problem for some people, but he approaches it in his way. He comes up with a creative solution. He takes the last of his charcoal, calls everyone together, even his dad, and has them all sit down to a feast he prepared. A feast he poured his heart and soul into. I was ready for this to be the racist dog episode of the season. The Zap Gets Cancelled episode, where they jump the shark and go on some supposedly woke, usually just dumb tirade that never has any payoff. But they don't do that. They keep it anchored in some amount of realism. Bobby lets his food speak for himself. Now, Japanese-German fusion is definitely a choice. It's the axis of flavor, especially on a grill considering his grandpa died on a hibachi, but it's where his identity lies. I like it. I enjoy this Bobby that stands behind what he believes in. And that end scene where Hank says his food is delicious and he understands why Bobby does things the way he does, that shows even Hank has matured. Living in Saudi Arabia gave him some new perspectives and some new passions like we'll see later in the season. This was a necessary Bobby episode, and it showed he's his own man now. Bobby Gets Grilled is a charred and mustard glazed 10 out of 10. Chore Money, Chore Problems. Hank is bored out of his mind and decides to follow Boomhauer around as he does handyman work on the Chore Chimp app, which, wow, that is an unfortunate app idea. You rate people in bananas, basically calling the people you hire monkeys. It's a choice. Boomhauer gets concussed, and so Hank takes over for him and starts doing the work, but doesn't get that people really just want someone to listen to, so he blows off a couple of new parents as they vent and just sets up their drapes for them. Eric, the new dad, would actually be played by Josh Brenner, aka Big Head in Silicon Valley, and Donatello in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles opposite Ben Schwartz's Leonardo. It's all connected. Ben Schwartz, of course, being longtime friends with Thomas Middleditch, who was also in Silicon Valley. Notice how I haven't been really tearing into Peggy being the worst this season yet? It's because she really kinda isn't. She's Peggy, absolutely. She butchers Arabic and, just as bad as Spanish, but she's actually kinda tolerable. Even in this episode, she's just encouraging Hank to be more open with customers and be more emotionally available. Like, she just wants Hank to open up and be his most honest self. Sure, she wants Peggy Ale to be the name of the winning beer, and she's very Peggy about things, but she's also Hank's voice of reason, and you can tell their relationship has evolved from being in Saudi Arabia. They're more frisky with each other. He's more open to doing what she wants to do, and he definitely seems much more opened up, even if it's just the subtle things. He even goes back and shares with the new parents about his and Peggy's challenges when they were new with Bobby, and told them they'd be okay. Hank is turning into a wise mentor. He's doing something new, trying to find a new purpose now that he's retired. And yet all of this is not the focus of the episode. The focus is around Bobby finding out Connie is dating Chane, and she tries to hook him up with her roommate, Ola, played by Brittany Adebumola. I appreciate that Bobby has a genuine charm to him, and him and Joseph being roommates works perfectly. You can tell that they were, of course, going to be best friends when they were adults. They are fantastic for each other, and I love how they interact. I think it's great. I think it perfectly encapsulates, men's relationships in their 20s. They're smoking together. They're hanging out together. Joseph is addicted to MILFs for some reason. Like, it's just, we never really saw Hank and the gang in their 20s. When we joined them, they were pretty established in the neighborhood. Some of them had settled down. We get to see a new side of things as Bobby, Connie, and Joseph start to reconnect as adults and hang out as just friends, and it works. Also, I know people had gripes with it, but I really like Ty LeClaire as Joseph. I think he does a phenomenal job. Of course, I miss my boy, the Brexter, the old Breckenmeyer, and I'm frankly shocked he's not in the season, but I think this is one of the better recasting decisions, and it shines. Chore Money, Chore Problems is an 8 bananas out of 10. Seriously, what were they thinking with the bananas? Horrible idea. New ref in town. I'm gonna keep it real with you here, gang. This was the episode that might have broken me. I would argue this is the worst episode of the season, and even then, it's fine. The A story has Hank tagging along to Luke Jr.'s soccer game while everyone in the neighborhood hates that filthy ball-kicking sport. Boomhauer is the ref and gets fed up, so Hank steps in because he actually loves the sport and took up a passion while in Saudi Arabia where football is super popular? Wow, that's crazy! The B story has Bobby going to buy a car and gets saddled with a horse on top of it. Get it? Saddle with a horse? Haha! Why couldn't Bronco Barry be Wayne Prattley or something? Why'd it have to be Bronco Barry? Who is Bronco Barry? Also, you have Stephen Root playing them. He could really be anybody. But I guess if I can't get Buck, this will have to do. Hank starts being a ref on the DL while Dale gets suspicious, and Peggy loves the secrecy of it all. Dale even, of course, kidnapping Hank so he can't ref a game and can't be the Manchurian candidate he's convinced he's become. Hank plays Dale in this episode absolutely masterfully to get out of the situation. I love how smooth he is with coming up with a believable lie for Dale. He has been in the situation and he knows exactly what he needs to hear to drop suspicions. That is a man that knows his friends through and through. The A story of Hank and the ref is not bad at all. It's actually my favorite part. It's just, yeah, that car B story. Bobby has everything he needs. He's trying to be a real adult about everything, and boom, now he has a horse he has to deal with. The show was doing so well until this moment, and then just nothing. It felt very sitcom-y. And then, by the end, John Redcorn is taking the horse to his land, but only if the boys will come and visit. Which, Bobby absolutely knows John Redcorn is Joseph's dad. I find it hard to believe Peggy never brought it up, or he never picked up on it. He has been shown to be way too smart to not figure that out. And even in the last episode, it's kind of alluded to, with Joseph's like, oh, look at me, I'm a proud white guy. And Amelia looks over and he's like, nope, do not address that. He knows. There's no way he doesn't. And he's been shown to be smart, but not like that impossibly Mary Sue smart either. He's perfectly written. He's got flaws, morals, and every choice he makes is believable. He's just thrown into an unbelievable situation, so of course it feels off. The episode is not bad, it's just the weakest of the bunch to me. Still incredibly solid and better than most of the later seasons of the original run. New ref in town is a scrum, including 7 out of 10. And I gotta admit, the free-for-all soccer game at the end with a frickin' rugby scrum was amazing. Peggys Fade Out. Here it is. Here's the controversial episode. The episode where everything falls apart. Where the series jumped that shark. Did you know? Jumping the shark is a reference to when the Fonz water skied over a shark in Happy Days. Henry Winkler was also a guest star in the show in A Rover Runs Through It. All connected. You have a good day today? I hope you did. All right. Let's at least talk about this incredible A story. While Hank was gone, Brian Robertson took Bill to his barbershop, and Bill started to really bond with everyone there. He found a community, and while Hank thought he was making it up, he was shocked to find he had a ton of people that genuinely seemed to care for him. I adore that Bill found community in a black barbershop. I think that is a wonderful story idea for him. The twist? He told them all he was married to Peggy and has been hyping up everything they do because he knows they'd never meet her, naturally telling them all that Hank was a lonely, sad, pathetic man instead of him. Also, like the season premiere showed Bill utterly massive, and by the second episode he'd slimmed down substantially. Just don't worry about any inconsistencies, it's fine. Peggy hears about Bill's lying because she feels unimportant and feels like she's fading into obscurity. She tries to feed into the lie and get him to tell them bigger and grander things she's done, until he's begging her to come to the barbershop so they can see his wife and believe him. She then proceeds to tell him to end things, and he does it in the only way he knows how. Throwing a fake funeral for Peggy. And I actually really love this Bill episode because it's both super believable and Hank is mortified every step of the way. He is never okay with what he's doing. I love how angry he gets about it. All right, the B story. Bobby catches Chien making out with a girl that isn't Connie and thinks Chien is cheating on Connie. He decides to tell her, and Connie tells him it's impossible that Chien is cheating on her because they're in an E&M relationship. E&M standing for ethically non-monogamous. They're in an open relationship where they can sleep with whoever and do whatever they want so long as they communicate about it. Connie even telling Bobby he's not E&M material. So, 3 things. 1. Connie tells Bobby he'd never be in an E&M relationship with her. Even at the end of the episode, she sent chocolates and went to the wrong address that said he wouldn't be E&M material, he would be husband material. She likes him enough on his own to not need or want an open relationship. 2. She and Chien have been pushed together for years by their parents, so of course they found a workaround that allows them the freedom to be who they are while keeping their parents happy, and of course Chien is a dude bro about it. And 3, you're shocked the engineer is mechanical and analytical about her relationships and tries to keep emotion out of it? That's on you. It's believable and short-lived. If it lingered, or say she dumped him to be with some space prince as they told a bunch of Toy Stories for no conceivable reason, it'd be a different story. They're not glorifying E&M relationships, and they even mock it when Bobby meets Willow at the end of the episode, but it's what Connie is doing. What Connie is doing is not always correct. What Bobby does is not always correct. It's not messaging. It's just something that sometimes happens in college and is being referenced by a bunch of kids doing something while in college. What an idea. Not like Connie's having Bobby raise a son that's very obviously not his or anything. It's just a solid episode overall that builds the plot while also giving us a fantastic journey back into Bill. It honestly makes me sad we don't get a single Brian episode this season. We know he's good friends with Dale Boomhauer and especially Bill. He obviously has some familiarity with Hank, but what does he do? Who is he? We know he's in a band from later episodes. That's cool. I want more Keith David. Give me more. I got my Gary Anthony Williams fix this episode, but I need me a Brian A story. I am actually interested in a new character, and that takes skill. Peggys Fade Out is a decoupled 8 out of 10. Any given Hill day. Bobby wants to do something nice for his dad and decides to take him to Cowboys practice camp so he can live out his dream of being on the Cowboys. And Willow, his girlfriend, is joining them! Yay! She has some beef with Jerry Jones for firing her father, but they start going through the practice and Hank starts bonding with Willow when he sees just how good of a player she is. Wow, Hank being open to women being good at football. Oh, I can hear the rage already. Still very much within expectations of Hank, but you're gonna find something to be mad about. But remember, Hank married a softball legend and knows female athletes can really do a number, which again, has been established in the past. The B story has Peggy opening a book nook for the people of the neighborhood to come together and actually socialize again after she picked up some books from a yard sale. The problem? The books were infested with bed bugs and start spreading the infestation around the neighborhood, so she enlists Dale to help her cover it up. After Hank, Bobby, and Willow work together to clinch the victory, Hank and Bobby walk in on Willow unclenching her cheeks all over Jerry Jones's desk to really send him a message. It's King of the Hill. Top to bottom, left to right, start, select, Konami code. This is an episode of King of the Hill I believe was made in 2008. This feels timeless, and I actually genuinely love it. Willow could have been anyone just dropping a deuce on Jones's desk. It absolutely shines and is probably one of the most rewatchable episodes of the batch. The rest feel like a steady beat to a bigger story. If there ever was filler, this would be it, and it's not even that much filler. It's another great Peggy and Dale adventure for once. Wow, Nancy and Min would absolutely be the wives on Nextdoor just waiting for drama to report for no good reason. Of course, Peggy would get upset people refuse to hang out anymore and just sulk indoors. It is all absolutely believable down to the deuce on the desk. Couldn't happen to a worse guy. Any given Hill day is a touchdown Flushing. 9 out of 10. Conscious Uncoupling. Ronnie Chang is one of the greatest things to happen to modern Daily Show. He's one of the best correspondents, terrific guest host, and he's a fantastic comedic talent. I genuinely hope for only the best for him. He is also just the absolute worst pick to play Khan. It sounds like he's not even trying. He sure did read his lines, and they're just the worst. He harnesses zero Khan energy. Not once did I hear him and go, wow, that's Khan all right. No, he just said a kinda nasally version of what he was supposed to read. Anyway, Khan and Min are celebrating their 30th anniversary with a big soiree and rubbing it in Hank and Peggy's faces since they reached their 30th before Hank and Peggy. Except when Hank notices someone lurking in Khan's garage, he goes to investigate and finds out Khan and Min actually divorced and Khan is living in the garage, and they've been keeping it up and hiding it to preserve their social status. At the celebration, Hank tries to hide it while Bobby is doing his best to make sure everything is perfectly catered and tries to help Connie when he sees she's depressed. He's always trying to listen and be a shoulder for her even when he doesn't know what's going on. For a good bit of the later seasons, because of network stipulations, you really don't see Connie and Bobby together all that much. Most of their references to the two of them come from the earlier seasons, but it's still a strong enough relationship that it's believable they'd reconnect after all these years. And I think this is the episode with the big switch. Hank's story is much less important in the grand scheme than Bobby's. Bobby's story is on a narrative incline. Hank's story is just moving that narrative along. Because Hank found out, he told Peggy, and because Peggy found out, she told Bobby. So of course, Bobby accidentally talks about it while being recorded without knowing it, and drops the bombshell to everyone. but he also shows Connie he's supportive and wants to make her happy. And by the time she and Chien are breaking up at the end of the episode because he doesn't want to support her in any way, you feel that narrative momentum pick up. This was a necessarily slow episode that gives us that perfect jumping off point for the last 2 episodes of the season. But yeah, no, this con is just the worst. I know there's leaked storyboards of the next season and everything, and I know Con lives with Bill, but yeah, no, I'm not about this con. Conscious Uncoupling is a trail cam recorded 9 out of 10. No Hank Left Behind. 10 out of 10. Best episode. 100 out of 10 if you'd be so bold. Let's get the B story out of the way first. Peggy messes up her leg and needs an MRI, but when she's in the hospital in Dallas, Bobby has to leave and she has a panic attack in the tube. She can't seem to shake it and ends up staying with Bobby and Joseph, who canonically partake in the devil's lettuce. Boys were raised right. Also, Joseph is, again, just super into MILFs, and I love that young gravy status for him. I love this new Joseph, and I never want him to change. Peggy tries to show Bobby and Joseph she's still the cool hip mom she always thought she was, and Bobby realizes how important his mom is to him and goes to help her sit through the MRI. It's a very real conflict as an adult with a mom. You know your time with your parents is limited and you never want them to feel ignored, but you also just get swept up in the drama of life and struggle to find the time. It hit a little close to home, I will admit. Call your mother, she worries. It is a perfect Bobby and Peggy B story, and I'm genuinely glad it's there. But that A story? Oh buddy boy! The Hill boys, Hank, GH, and Junichiro all get a settlement made to Cotton's estate for ankle cream, and Dee Dee begs Hank to look after GH and teach him how to be just a little bit more respectful towards her. GH is a teenager now, and he's very unique. Also, brief aside, even double check to be sure, Hulu's Ketchup Essentials doesn't include Returning Japanese Part 1 or 2 or Lucky's Wedding Suit, the only 3 times Junichiro ever appeared. Furthermore, only To Sirloin with Love, I think, shows baby GH. Otherwise, there's no episode in the Essentials that would tell you Hank has a brother, much less 2 of them. Bad Disney. Bad Hulu. Bad. Setting these people up for failure. How dare. No. Obviously, Patriot Act and Halloween are essential to appreciate this new season for some reason. They're good Halloween's a good episode, don't get me wrong, but what? Anyway, GH wants to go to a special camp, but he needs a mentor to take him. So Hank and GH go to a men's empowerment camp. That's right, gang. Hank's getting red-pilled. Who's the leader of this group? Oh, just some bald Tate wannabe played by Diedrich Bader with a masterful return to the series. At first, Hank is all for GH learning about faith, finances, and learning how to be a salesman, but then they start blaming women for their failures in life, and Hank educates them that women aren't keeping men down, they're keeping themselves down. He talks about how much he loves and respects his wife and views her as a partner. You know, stuff established as early as the first season of the show. He's not woke or God cucked. He's just above all that red pill nonsense. He knows it's empty and he calls it out. Again, they're not being overtly political, but if you feel you're being attacked by King of the Hill of all shows, and feel offended, please reconsider your life choices that got you to this point. It's King of the Hill. It is the flower of spices when it comes to offensive comedy. Come on now. This episode is a dream. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, but it was utterly enchanting. It's also great to see Hank bond with his baby brother and teach him the real secrets to being a man. Loving your partner, supporting your friends, and following a personal code. So long as you do that, you're a winner in my book. No Hank Left Behind is a golden balls wielding 10 out of 10. A sounder investment. And here we are, the season finale. Hank and Peggy have some extra scratch in their investments. A little something, and they're debating about what to invest it in. John Redcorn brings up his redcorn business, and they mull it over until Hank goes out with the guys and they start hunting wild boars and start a company to get rid of more boars. Peggy invests in the company, No More Boars, or Boars No More, and starts trying to convince Hank to invest his half of their profits into the plan as well. When he's skeptical, he decides to go to someone for advice. Buck freaking Strickland. Seriously, what the buck? How is this man still alive? He had like 5 canonical heart attacks. I had steeled my soul, ready to not have any more buck in my life. That man is more stripper spit than man at this moment. But he comes in as a key investor and calls Hank dumb for not jumping at it right out the gate. The B story has Bobby and Connie failing to connect on dates. Bobby takes Connie to a violin concert when she hasn't played in years, and Connie tries to take them to a trampoline park only to get shoulder blasted by a kid and have to be rushed to the hospital when she bucks up her arm. Oh yeah, that's gonna be a new one. That's gonna be a new tool in the academic's arsenal. What the buck? Here we go. I didn't talk about it at all this season, but each episode is actually 25 minutes long. And while it may only be a couple minutes longer than a traditional episode here or there, that extra screen time really gives everything time to breathe. The A story and B story episodes feel fully fleshed out, and you never really cut anything from one to get a satisfying conclusion out of the other. It never just fades to black and credits roll. There is always a conclusion, and I can't tell you how refreshing that is. And Hank starts to develop FOMO when the company sells and starts doing really, really well stock-wise. Bobby realizes they're trying to date like they're 12 again, and he tries to love Connie for the woman she is and not the girl she was. The two bonding in the hospital bed eating pudding while loving who they've become. I love that they're developing a more mature relationship, actually seeing each other as grown adults. Connie sees Bobby as imaginative and hardworking. He's built a successful restaurant and is pushing for his dreams to become reality, while she is striving to be an engineer. They're professionals now, and they're approaching each other with a mutual love and respect. Meanwhile, I never thought I'd see the day Buck was not only alive, but in good enough shape he could be an antagonist for Hank. It really makes you wonder why he went to Saudi Arabia in the first place. Did Buck send him? Did Buck fire him? Why did Brian live in his house? Does he work for Strickland? There's so many open questions that could have been answered with just 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, but the story overall has been a fantastic ride otherwise. This is how you wrap the season. You show Bobby and Connie growing closer. You show Hank and Peggy getting into their usual antics. Look at what's happened in the neighborhood. Rainy Street was boring with these two gone, and now look at them. While they may want you to think they're bland, all the adventure happens when they're around. Also, Hank and Peggy's relationship seems way stronger than it was. It just really kind of sings this season where they've hit this sweet spot of them having the occasional small fight, but they're always on each other's sides. Even when Peggy is encouraging Hank to join in on the investing, it's more about him having fun. She sold her stocks when the company was still climbing so they'd have a profit. She didn't even need Hank to tell her to pull her stocks. She just knew to do it. She's a new, more mature Peggy who can handle her own antics, and I'm here for it. This season could have been a paint-by-numbers nostalgia trip. Instead, they gave us something that celebrates the old and builds up the new. King of the Hill isn't just Hank's story. It's Rainy Street's story. It's how everyone has grown and changed, how they scheme and come together when they hear that all-too-familiar sizzle on the grill. This was a wonderful communal episode and gave me hope that this revival would be a hit. A sounder investment is a trap and released 10 out of 10. And there we have it, folks. That was season 14. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What was your favorite episode? Least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, consider liking, subscribing, and telling your friends. We're out here. Season 14 is for the kids that grew up with King of the Hill on repeat in the background. Season 14 is what I wish Futurama even attempted to do. They took advantage of the series being on streaming and actually built through lines that made the season richer as a whole because they were there. Season 14 is right up there with like seasons 5 and 6 in quality. Sure, there's some timeline inconsistencies and some of the new voices just didn't work, but for a show to come back after 15 years and after several tragic passings of the original voice actors and still managing to deliver a fantastic season? Now that takes real skill. This season was made with care and love. They knew what the audience wanted to see and they knew what they needed to do. I second-guessed every concept of this season when it was leaked, but seeing it in execution, it just sings. Now, am I saying it's an IGN 10 out of 10? Absolutely not. It does have its flaws, but they are minimal. King of the Hill is what we need now more than ever. It's a series that has impacted so many of us, and this season reminds us why. Hank is not a perfect man, but he'll admit when he's wrong. He loves his wife and son more than anything, and he'd do anything for his friends. I aspired to be a man like Hank when I was a kid. That was the American dream right there. I think some of us have forgotten what this is all about. I can only hope more people see this season and start to remember to care about other people again. To approach things with a new perspective, maybe even a little bit more empathy than they usually would have. Look at how Bobby turned out. He's a celebrated fusion chef who does things his way while still being creative and funny. He earned Hank's respect while never compromising on who he was. That boy turned out all right. Still weird he's only 21, but hey, it's just nitpicks. This season didn't just give me hope in King of the Hill again, it gave me hope in myself. If you just keep fighting and moving forward, eventually something will change. And we'll be grilling with the boys in no time. Whatever that may mean for all of you as well. Whether it's just a good D&D sesh with the buds or a great grill out. No matter what, just remember what's important. Your health and you. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall. And if you want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership programs today. $2 a month gets your name on this fancy list, and my eternal gratitude for being so awesome and spicy cool. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember to stay strong, keep fighting, and know that it's okay to not be okay. Turn your brain off, let yourself relax, and get some real sleep. A lot of people are stressed right now, but I'm proud of you for just waking up today. I'm proud of you for marching into that unknown. I'm proud of you for being you. A rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave a-coming. Goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.